Tales by Tabletop is a story adapted from sessions of Dungeons & Dragons. It follows the saga of a trio of adventurers, Laeran, Rosjen, and Tim.
Welcome, dear listeners, to the 12th chapter of our story. The morning sun has yet to shine on Brevery, and already there is movement throughout the town. The gala at the keep is this evening. All over the air is bustling with activity as many of Brevery's citizens begin their morning early, working frantically to finish preparations for the event. Aldo, the innkeeper of the Swampy Donkey, wipes his brow, his eyes weary from little to no sleep. He takes a deep breath, inhaling the wonderful richness of the smoky tavern kitchen and all of the delicious baked goods that he has been tasked with making for the coming event, and sighs contentedly. There's a quick knock at the kitchen door, and Aldo is momentarily called away from his already long, stretching hours at the oven and hearth. He dusts off his apron and warmly greets one of the hands from Brevery Keep, arriving with an empty cart and some news. Our heroes are about to get a visit from someone. Aldo finds Toby, tells him to watch the fires, and walks upstairs to our heroes' rooms, hoping they have managed to get some sleep. Ascending the old, creaking stairs to the guest quarters, he raps lightly on the door to Laeran and Tim's room. After a few moments, Laeran answers the door in his sleeping linens, hangman's scar clearly visible around his neck. Though bleary from lack of sleep, his eyes show a warmth that his outward appearance belies.
Good morning, Innkeep. It is, in fact, morning, yes?
Yes, it is morning.
What can I do for you?
I've just received word that Madame Anne Ticello will be coming down from the keep to speak with you.
Upon hearing mention of the impending arrival of Chief of Staff of Brevery Keep, Tim's eyes shoot open. He throws his pillow from over his head and sits straight up, fully attentive.
What? Anne Ticello? She's coming here? We might still have a chance to get into the gala.
Tim stumbles out of bed, slaps himself across the face, and immediately starts to search through his bags for his best clothes. Laeran does his best to ignore him.
Now, I just want to warn you, Madame Ticello can come across as very, intimidating, yes. I just want to let you know so you could all be on the right foot with her.
Very kind of you, sir. When can we expect her presence?
The hand from the keep told me to expect her within the hour.
Of course, I suppose I should wear more than just an apron to this meeting, then. Thank you for the message, sir. Could I trouble you to prepare us some coddle or something for breakfast?
I'll see what I can have Toby come up with, but I must return to the kitchen. There's still much to be done before this evening, and we are all hands on deck right now.
Very well, then. I shall not keep you any longer. Do not trouble yourself with informing Rosjen. I will wake our sleeping monk friend.
The innkeeper bows and pads softly back down the stairs. Tim splashes water from his bedside table across his eyes and does his best to shake off the lingering grogginess of sleep. Laeran walks over to the door to Rosjen's room and knocks gently on her door.
Yes? Who is it?
Rosjen, it seems like we must make an early morning of it. That lady from the keep is coming down to talk to us. Get dressed and ready.
All right, I'll meet you guys downstairs.
Rosjen, who'd been sleeping on the floor again, stretches and hops straight up into a standing position. Laeran returns to his shared room with Tim and begins to dress.
By the way, what the heck is coddle?
Oats boiled in ale, common among the dwarves, I believe.
Oh, I'm so sorry I asked. So what do you think she's coming to talk to us about?
I sincerely doubt it has anything to do with your desire to attend the gala.
Hey, a boy can dream, can't he?
The two men prepare themselves. Laeran kneels beside his bedside table for his morning prayers, while Tim hurriedly shaves his stubble, occasionally sprinkling curses as he repeatedly nicks himself with his razor. Meanwhile, Rosjen dresses and starts her morning stretches and exercises. Tim finishes before Laeran, grabs his guitar, and heads down to the common room of the Swampy Donkey. The light of dawn filters brightly through the windows. The commotion in the kitchen is louder than usual. Not only are Aldo and his two tiefling employees working, but also several others from the town and keep. The clatter of pots and pans accompanies a harassed-looking Toby as he enters the common room from the door to the kitchen. The tiefling sits down a cold board at one end of the bar, along with several mugs. With a hurried bow, he retreats back to the kitchen.
They are busy then. This is a much more meager spread than usual.
Tim looks at some dismay at the board, which is mostly hard bread ends and scraps of cheese, many of which are largely rind. He sits down at a stool and begins half-heartedly munching on a chunk of cheese. After a few minutes, Laeran and Rosjen join him, and the common room of the Swampy Donkey begins to stir as a couple of commoners from town and a few other sleepy guests filter in.
What happened to the rest of it?
You are not usually the one to clear the board, Tim. This is surprising.
Don't look at me. This is all we've got today. There's still plenty enough of it, just maybe not the choicest stuff.
The two sit down at stools, Tim and Laeran thoughtfully eating their bread. Rosjen resigns herself and takes to the rest with her usual stout halfling gusto. Tim looks around the bar at the other guests and recognizes a man from a town who'd also been in the bar the previous evening. At Tim's glance, the man gives him a wave, his hand sporting a large, shoddy bandage Tim hadn't noticed the night before. Tim, curious, gets up from the bar and walks over.
Hail, friend. What happened there?
The man picks at his poorly bandaged hand.
I did the bandage myself. I am healing. I have the best healing. Everybody says so.
Fair enough, sir. But my good friend over there is a cleric. Perhaps you could take a look. Hey, Laeran, come over here.
I don't need any help. My hands are big and strong. I'll be fine.
Please, sir, I would feel insulted if I were not at the very least able to give you a fresh bandage.
Before the man can protest further, Laeran takes out his healer's kit and begins to unwrap the dirty linen, revealing a ghastly crescent-shaped gash straight through the back of the man's hand.
Good lord. What kind of accident caused this? It's like something tried to take a scoop out of your hand. I can see the bone. Good gods. The way you had this bandage would have very likely led to an infection. Here, let me rebind it for you.
Rosjen takes the rest of the breakfast board and joins the others.
Great gobbling gods! What happened to your hand?
Oh, that crooked bitch Anne did this to me.
Language, sir.
Anticello did that? Whatever for?
I was unfairly attacked. It was so sad. She comes up to me, crazy and savage, like one of those infesting orcs, and then does this. She must have had blood coming out of her wherever.
I've heard she's strict, but wanton violence doesn't sound like.
In any case, it sounds like you two have a complicated relationship. Here we are. I've rebound the wound, but you'll need to get it redone in a couple of days. I would suggest paying a healer for proper care.
Well, I guess it's okay. At least for a little. Oh no!
The door to the inn opens, revealing Madame Anne Ticello, standing tall and sharp-eyed. A dark and commanding figure in a finely made leather bodice, linen blouse, and a red calf-length layered skirt. Her only adornments are a few hairpins that arrange her dark and curly hair into a striking crest. She immediately locks eyes with the injured man. Before anyone else can react, he lifts out of his seat and bolts in pure fear, clearing the bar in a single leap before busting through the doors into the Swampy Donkey's kitchen.
Sir, please tuck in the sides of the bandage. Try to avoid using that hand for a few days.
James, darling, I'm going to need 5 minutes from you. Thank you, dear. Bye.
Anne hikes up her skirts and immediately gives chase after the man.
You unthinkable dick. This is exactly what I warned you about.
Rosjen notices James standing in the doorway, left entirely in the dust, holding up a well-made stick horse. She tilts her head and looks at him questioningly.
I see you had your hand bandaged.
Hey, James. How you been? Any idea what that was all about?
I accidentally tripped over his foot yesterday, and then him and Miss Anne talked.
Tim leans towards Laeran and points to the back of his hand.
Stop destroying this kitchen, or I will feed you to Tiamat myself.
Wonder what they talked about.
Maybe it's best we do not find out.
My home, not yours, and no one. Stop screaming and stop squirming. Do not.
You crooked bitch.
Every single instrument of torture that I own will be used to tear you piece by piece. For not only insulting my family, my home, and my blood. Do you understand?
Everything is quiet as Anne steps back out of the kitchen, neatening her skirt with practiced grace. James waves at the three and jogs over to Anne, who runs her fingers through his mohawk, gently smoothing it back.
Now, James, I'm going to need you to be good for a few minutes while I talk with Mr. Lightleaf. Now remember, what did we say about other people?
Not everyone wants to play. Ask permission first. I know. Can I go find Mandy and David now, Miss Anne?
You've done a very good job of remembering lately, yes. You may go see if they're awake, sweet child.
Anne pinches the orc child's cheek and playfully gives a tug on one of his tusks before sending him off. James bounds to the door next to the stairs with glee, and Anne watches him go with a smile. Without giving Laeran, Rosjen, or Tim a single look, she walks back into the kitchen.
Well, that was a whirlwind of emotion right there.
I'm a little worried for part 2. That is no woman to be trifled with.
Hey! Where did everybody go?
The party looks around and realizes that the common room, which had slowly been filling with its normal morning traffic of guests and townspeople, was now suspiciously empty but for the 3 of them. After a minute of uncomfortable waiting, James reappears from the door next to the stairs, a dejected look on his face. He slowly walks back to the table with the 3 adventurers, with heavy footfalls, dragging his stick horse behind him.
What's wrong, James?
Mandy and David are still sleeping. We were supposed to play paladins and barbarians this morning.
They have had a few long nights recently, lad. I'm sure they'll be up before too long. Just give them time.
Aw, it's okay, James. Hey, do you want to play a game?
The orc child's ears lift, and he looks at Rosjen, his sadness turning to excitement.
What? Sure. What do you want to play? Paladins, barbarians? You can play the elf savage that I, the great and conquering paladin of vengeance, slay in mortal combat.
Or we could do something maybe a little less violent?
Like martial arts?
Yes, exactly.
Wait, no, that was a joke.
Oh, you're gonna teach me how to really fight? Awesome.
Now, James, we shouldn't ever try to start fights. I'm not sure if you're ready to learn how to fight somebody. I was talking more about learning how to defend yourself if someone attacks you. I was thinking we'd start with some basic stretches and some simple blocking techniques. Defense before offense.
James's excitement becomes a little less visible, but then he shrugs and nods, smiling widely with his tusky grin.
I'll take it. Let's do it.
The 3 clear a little area of space in the deserted common room, and Laeran and Tim sit off to the side while Rosjen and James go through a few basic techniques, James using his stick horse as a quarterstaff. James, after getting the hang of it, begins to dance and make sing-song noises throughout, causing Rosjen to occasionally break out into giggles. About 15 minutes pass, and James's improvement is quickly evident.
Wow, James! You're a really swift learner. Great job!
Thanks. Linus says that to me all the time, too. He's the one who made me the stick horse.
Anne returns from the inn's kitchen with Aldo in tow.
Of course, madam. We will have everything ready and prepared for this evening. Even with all this excitement, we are right on schedule.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Anne turns past the bar and strides with confidence and purpose to the party. Her sharp eyes are fiercely intelligent and focused solely on the 4 in front of her. Both James and Rosjen stop practicing. All of them, except for James, feel as if they're being sized up and found wanting. Laeran stands and bows respectfully, followed by Tem. Rosjen stands with her hands to her side and bows deeply. James, seeing this, repeats the gesture, slightly lopsided from the weight of the stick horse's head.
Sorry about all that. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, of course. You 3.
Anne's right hand moves unconsciously to her waist while she speaks. Laeran sees she has a belt loop holding a sai. He realizes with some puzzlement that it doesn't match the wound he'd seen earlier on Donnie's hand. James, feeling uncomfortable, turns to Rosjen.
Miss Rosjen? Sensei? Permission to leave?
Permission granted, young student.
James does another half bow and then scurries over to Anne, who he gives a large hug about the waist. She smiles at him again, a little of the tension lifted.
Well, at least it isn't that lazy layabout Linus teaching you anything else and filling your head with his nonsense. I need to speak with these fine, adventurers. I'll pick you up after the gala is over. Now, run along, dear.
Over the muffled bustling in the kitchen and the now fully awake town outside, a couple of pairs of surprisingly heavy footfalls and the sound of small voices bounding back and forth can be heard. James picks up his stick horse and heads gleefully off.
I've heard about your little adventure earlier this week. saving Aldo's boy, David.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
The town guards told you? I didn't think they believed me. That was only 2 days ago.
We were in the Feywilds for 3 days, Tim. It's already been a week.
James has been telling me all about it. He is friends with David. Although childish stories being what they are, I do trust the boy. He has a gift of seeing the truth of things.
Hey, what can I say? Saving kids is what we do. Just trying to help out any way we can.
Laeran rolls his eyes while Anne quickly glosses over the moment. Tim notices Anne idly play with a simple copper ring on her left hand.
Yes, quite. Anyway, I'm a bit embarrassed to say that there's been an incident at the castle. Lady Brevery and the rest of the essential staff are terribly busy preparing for the coming gala tonight, and this does present me with a problem. Over the past 2 months, we've had as many break-ins from the dungeons and caves below the castle. Zombies, none of those undead kobolds I hear you had the pleasure of dealing with. And they've been found shambling loose in the lower parts of the castle.
Undead? At the keep?
I can assure you they were swiftly dealt with. And I've also taken great care to make sure that any potential breaches or leaks have been properly sealed. However, there are as many caves and passages that intersect with the keep's lower levels. This means there is still a possibility we could be embarrassed, and I cannot have that tonight. With all the other guards on stations, this is where you three become involved.
Well, of course. We'd be glad to help in any way we can.
That is wonderful to hear. I had already previously contracted a traveling caravan leader and his hired guards to help, but I do not hold any trust over them. I would like to replace them with you. But, his name does escape me.
Cartwright?
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, Cartwright. Have you heard that great song about him? I hear it really lays the smackdown on. Ow!
Tim stops short as Rosjen surreptitiously slams the tip of her quarterstaff into his foot.
I don't care much for music, I'm afraid. Though in any case, your timely return to town is fortuitous, and coincidentally at the same time as Vicness.
It's crazy about all these coincidences around here lately.
We all strive to help as best we can, ma'am.
Which is why I now extend the offer to you. Help us tonight to make sure that the gala goes off without a hitch. And after all, it would be most unfortunate if anything were to go wrong. The consequences for those responsible would be, dire.
Of course. I do have some questions first.
Anne looks outside at the light and back at the group.
Very well. I have a few minutes before I must be off again. What would you like to know further?
When did these undead arrive? And there were only 2.
Yes, the first was over 2 months ago, followed by another a few weeks later. Since we've taken steps to seal any gaps, we haven't seen any since.
Were the zombies anyone you knew, from the town or surrounding area?
No, these are far older. Little more than shambling chunks of bone and rotten meat. Do you know anything about the history of the keep itself?
Can't say we do, ma'am.
It was built over the lair of the Black Dragon. Many were the undead servants that served in the great labyrinthian complex below us. And I'm sure there are quite a few horrors, living and dead, that remain. All we can do is work to make sure that they stay sealed and out of the way, destroying them when we can.
Built over the dragon's lair, huh? And its hoard of treasure?
Do you expect there to be any undead tonight?
No, but one can never be too careful. Indeed, hopefully this will be easy work for you. Now, the most important thing to remember is discretion. You are not officially part of Brevery's military, and our dignitaries will expect to see our guards and knights in their finery. Not you. The last thing I or Lady Brevery wants to see this evening is any sign of weakness in our numbers. Should anything happen untoward this evening, or should one of the undead escape and interrupt the gala, it could be disastrous, and I would be most displeased. I do not think you would like to be on the other end of that anger.
So you don't expect anything wrong to happen, but these undead have been showing up before a major diplomatic event. You don't suspect some sort of inside job or anything? Just remnants of some old black scalebags undead minions?
Child.
Child?
I suspect many things. Not all of them are something I want to make privy to those around me. I do suggest you be careful when speaking of the loyalty of any of those at Brevery Keep.
Of course. I didn't mean to assume. My apologies, Madam Ticello, but don't let my looks deceive you. The elven blood running through my veins may be subtle, but I'm of the ripe old age of 82. Something I forget full humans like yourself can't tell.
Again, child, you don't know this castle or this land well enough yet, so I will let this slide, but every knight that has ever entered this hall is of upright standing.
And I would never assume to besmirch their honor. I was talking more among the servant class. Surely there are many cooks, stable hands, and scullery maids. Are there any new arrivals among that number from the last couple of months?
It is not an entirely unreasonable possibility. Is there no one you suspect, Madame Ticello, amongst the people of the town, or even the keep?
I have no reason to suspect anyone who could possibly have connections to the keep, and the last person we hired is young Oida.
And what does she do within the keep?
Anne smiles at the question.
Whatever it is, she does it enthusiastically, that's for certain. Oida is our newest squire and seeks very strongly to prove herself. But that child couldn't orchestrate anything so nefarious. She'd be lucky to fight her way out of a paper bag. She is not a suspect.
Fair enough. It seems like you've got just about every angle covered. And while I was certainly hoping to find the joy of working under your employment, looking for caves and dark dungeons wasn't really what I had in mind. Surely a bard of my skill would be of better use elsewhere? I'd previously spoken to some of your guards who told me they'd recommend me to you.
Ah, so it was you that played for the guards. I had been wondering about that.
Yes, that was me. And while I'm sure you fully understood the frivolities and uselessness of such fanciful pursuits as music, surely at a party for Lady Brevery's important guests, entertainment of the highest quality would be sought.
You musicians are precious sometimes, aren't you? No, I'm afraid that the entertainment for this evening has been long well taken care of. The music for the guests will be provided by some arrogant musicians Linus knows. It's far too late for such a change in the planning, and at this point I will not have it.
Tim's shoulders sag, his pride taking a hit. Laeran gives him a pat on the shoulder in sympathy.
Now, I do not doubt your talent. Perhaps it can be arranged for you to perform for Lady Brevery at some other time, when there's not so much at stake.
So, where exactly will we be this evening?
There is one area that is as yet unsealed, and thus at greater risk for anything to happen. It is in the kitchens. However, due to its purpose, we unfortunately can make no plans to seal it off, so that is where you will go.
How will we gain access to the castle?
You are expected to be at the castle by 4 o'clock this afternoon, before the gala begins. I will let the gate guards know that you are coming. In compensation, I will offer you the same as I offered Cartwright, 500 gold. Do not be late. I suggest that you take care of anything that needs doing this afternoon well in advance.
Is there anyone we can get supplies from? I could use a restock on holy water.
You could speak with Hope once you arrive at the keep. If that will be all, I shall take my leave.
Peace to the living and solace to the dead, madam.
The 3 party members stand and bow once again to Anne, who departs.
Now that Madame Ticello has given us work, I suggest we rest and prepare ourselves. We have a little less than half a day to get ourselves together.
I'll run to the apothecary later to pick up some potions.
Good thinking.
Do you really think we'll need some holy water tonight?
We might want to save our coin, but yes, having some vials would be helpful. I will talk with the clerics at the keep. If we have learned anything of late, it's one must be ready for the undying when adventuring.
Well, since we have plenty of time, I'm going to go hit the old outhouse. Laeran, do you have some light reading on you?
Only Mordenkainen's Guide to Tact and Etiquette, you disgusting cad.
No, haven't read that one. Tome of Foes was definitely a riveting read, though. Maybe Brevery has a newspaper. Oh, or maybe Aldo or Toby has something. Hey, Toby!
The trio part ways. Tim finds and convinces Toby to let him borrow an old cookbook and heads off to do his business. Laeran returns upstairs to commune with his deity, Kelemvor. Rosjen grabs her calligraphy kit and begins to compose a few pages of forms. Where does the story continue? Join us next time for another chapter.
Tales by Tabletop is a series supported by a dedicated team. They make this project happen and infinitely more fun. Laeran is played by Jim Cook and voiced by Jay DeGraff. Rosjen is played by Misty Harper and voiced by Jazlyn Pintar. Tim is voiced and played by Phil Boelche. Your narrator is David Nellor. Guest voice acting provided by Gabrielle Galluzzo, Zac McAuley, Travis Nellor, and Levi Witt. Story coordinators are Mike Becker, Chris Hultin, and Zac McAuley. Sound effects provided by freesound.org and music provided by tabletopaudio.com. The theme for Tales by Tabletop was created by David Vass. This show is edited and directed by Zac McAuley, Travis Nellor, and is produced by Michael Blackard.